Alrighty, this is John. It's been a while since I made a video. I've been needing to make one. My brain's the type that build up all this information, then I have to kind of like download it and share it with everyone. And as far as time goes in my schedule, I've been kind of chasing my tail. So I finally got some time. Last couple of days I put this little presentation together for you. This is to cover a meditation that I'm going to be going over to. And the name of the meditation is going to be Toroidal Field Home, and basically a play on words. I'm always playing with words if you've seen any of my videos or my information. And it's basically dialing home, how to do that, and what the system detail is to be able to tune into the field, God, the Tao. It's all the same thing. And we're always connected to it, but the conscious connection is what we are to be developing right now, and a lot of that's happening all over the place. Lots of different ways it's coming out, and this is just my information, my interpretation that I share, and hopefully it'll help y'all waking up as it's helping me wake up to broader understanding of reality, which ultimately is what it's about, because it's about consciousness, and consciousness desires to be more conscious. It's an expansion, a growth. And anyway, I'll try to make this as short as possible. As I was putting this together, it got longer and longer, and I don't want to bore you with a lot of information, but I feel it's important to get the information I'm sharing so that the meditation can be more powerful, can impact you deeper. So what I'm going to be sharing in the next couple of minutes will be helping you to do the meditation, and the meditation is going to be on a separate YouTube or video. So you can just go to the meditation after you've seen this information. And you can try to do the meditation first if you want to, but to really understand it, I think you need to watch this video. So without any further ado, here we go. Most of y'all have probably seen my video, The Ark of the Covenant of Truth, and I recommend you watch that video. You don't have to do it before this meditation. I'm not going to go over all the detail here, but I want you to be very aware of landmarks within your body so that when you're doing the meditation, you can visualize them. Because the more you bring into your visualization the understanding of what's happening or what's involved, it's much deeper. It's a much more powerful meditation or focus of energy, which is all meditation is. So the temple. The temple is actually the real Ark of the Covenant. And yes, I spelled the Ark on purpose in an appropriate way, because arc as in electricity. And this Ark of the Covenant is in your head. I'm not going to go too much into detail about this bone, which is the sphenoid bone. And here you can see in this lower picture exactly where it's located within your head. And what's really interesting to me are the sides of the head are called the temple. So if you touch the sides of your head, you're actually touching the Ark of the Covenant that sits inside the temple. That to me is just amazing how reality reflects these holographic fractal patterns. It goes in just as far in our body as it goes out. So the sphenoid bone is the actual Ark of the Covenant. These little protrusions here on either side of the sphenoid bone are actually called wings. There's greater wings and lesser wings. Looks a lot like an owl, and I cover this, why it looks like an owl, in my Ark of the Covenant YouTube series. And I recommend you watch that. So I just want you to be aware of the sphenoid bone, where it's located, and how to visualize it. It basically looks like an owl. Some people say a bat, but I say it looks totally like a horned owl. It's even got the little horns on its head. So this is the Ark of the Covenant. It's inside your head. Even though there was an Ark of the Covenant in the Bible, the real representation of the Ark of the Covenant is within you. You don't need a temple outside of you to connect to God. You have all you need within your body. Here's a side view of the sphenoid bone. And of course, you can see this little saddle shape, this little dugout here in the bone. And this is the sella torsica. And the interesting thing about the sella torsica is it's where the pituitary gland sits perfectly inside of there. So here you have the Ark of the Covenant, and what sits inside of the Ark of the Covenant is the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland is the gland that secretes hormones that control the other endocrines. And the interesting thing about that is that every chakra is associated with an endocrine gland. So in essence, the pituitary gland not only controls the other endocrines like your thyroid, your thymus, your pancreas, your adrenals, and your testes or ovaries, it controls the chakra also, because the amount of hormone and the focus on those areas, the endocrine system, affects the chakra. It's a two-way system. Your chakra can be closed down and that can affect the endocrine, but the pituitary gland is in direct control of the endocrines, which means that it helps control the chakra system, which is really cool. So if you're in a certain meditative state, you can turn on and align all your chakras. That's the cool thing about what I'm going to be discussing a little bit further in about how the meditation I'm going to be showing gets into aligning the chakras and opening up the toroidal field and this torsion field that runs down the center of your body. So each chakra is associated with the endocrine gland and vice versa. And this means that the pituitary that rests in the Ark of the Covenant that is just inside the temples of your head controls your chakras. That's an awesome thing to realize, because you have access to God and access to all your chakras in your head. The sphenoid bone, I've already said this before, it is located between the temples. So you can see in this picture where the woman is touching her temples. She's actually touching the sphenoid bone right now. And to me it's really interesting, why do we call these the temples? So our sphenoid bone is inside the temples of our head. And if you put your fingers there, you're actually touching the Ark of the Covenant. That's pretty awesome to me. And we tend to hold our temples when we're stressed or trying to process something. This naturally happens. You've probably seen other people do it. Maybe you've caught yourself, like in the picture of the girl in the blue. She's sitting there rubbing her temples. And what that is doing is she's trying to clear energy on the side of the head and to see something in a new way. Because this whole sphenoid bone has a lot to do with the third eye chakra, crown chakra too, but a lot to do with the third eye chakra and all the senses, because the eyes, the sinuses all rest within the sphenoid or are connected to the sphenoid bone. So this tells us that the sphenoid bone has a lot to do with the third eye and how we see reality, perceive reality. So this brought me to the point of something I discovered with Reiki and the meridians. And I'm going to call this temple clearing. This is just an aspect that we're going to use in the meditation. And this is a Seiheki symbol. It's a Reiki symbol. And it's associated with healing the emotions. It has a lot to do with purifying. You can purify your body, an object. It can also be used to clear negative energy out of a room, a house. It's supposed to be able to cut and release addictions and entities. And it's known as the eraser, is another way of putting that. And its color is purple. So here we have Seiheki. This is the second Reiki symbol related to clearing and especially the emotions. Well, one day I had painted a couple of chakra symbols and I was going to hang in my office. And I brought them in to my office and I'd kind of placed them on the floor and in chairs, while I was hanging them. And I just happened to put my Seiheki painting, this one on the left, in a chair next to my acupuncture chart. Well, as I was going around kind of figuring out where I was going to put things, I kept looking back at the Seiheki and where I was going to put it, and then the acupuncture chart kind of got my attention, so I just took a moment, I went over there and I looked at the acupuncture chart with my Seiheki being right there. My brain just kind of linked those two together. I probably would have never found this before. I've never heard it anywhere before in Reiki, but to me I'm totally convinced as what this relates to. Anyway, I just happened to find it by accident, so to see. So here I am. I went over there. I looked at the acupuncture chart, and my Seiheki's right there. And I noticed something. They looked a lot alike. So I got to looking even closer. And what I realized is that if you take the Seiheki and turn it on its side, here you have the V, the 5, you also have the streak across the head. Okay, and you might think, okay, you're a little cuckoo just because you put those things together. But I'm like, that's one thing. But look at the color that's associated with the Seiheki. It's purple. And the third eye being right here in this area of the forehead, this meridian falls right over the third eye area. So that was like a second hit for me. So it looks alike. So the Seiheki and this meridian, which happens to be the gallbladder meridian that runs on the side of the head, they look an awful a lot alike. And I was like, wow. And then the color was a second hit. And then knowing what the gallbladder relates to, the gallbladder is one of the largest meridians, and it covers a large part of the head, as you can see here. It has to do with processing information. That's why when we're stressed, we touch that area. It's like stimulating that meridian point to move information out of the head and bring it down into the body. So I was looking at that, and so that was my second hit, because if you can run this meridian, it helps clear out the head. And when you clear out the head, you clear out the emotions. So I was like, And the Seiheki is also used to clear blocked or negative energy. And the head is where we build a lot of negative and blocked up energy. So that was enough of indicators to tell me that I was on the right track here. Seiheki looks a lot like the gallbladder meridian. It's also the color purple, and they both had to do with emotions and clearing out mental energy. So I was like, okay, that can't just be a coincidence. So now you know, the Seiheki has to do with your emotional clearing, mental clearing, and it is related to the third eye chakra, of course, but also mainly the gallbladder meridian. So during the meditation, we're going to be running this meridian. And how we run that meridian is we start at the corner of the eye, and you want to do this on both sides. So I recommend using your index finger and your middle finger. You sit there and hold your temples for a moment. You're going to tune into your sphenoid bone, being aware that that is the Ark of the Covenant. That is the space with which you can connect to God and communicate with God. And then, and I'm going to go over this more in the meditation, is you're going to imagine that your fingers are putting out like a purple light. And then you're going to draw back from the corner of each eye at the same time, going back towards your ear, then going up towards your forehead, a little bit forward and above the ear, back to the top front of the ear, then circle behind the ear, sweep up to the forehead, just above the eyebrows, and then sweep back over the head, like swooshing that energy down off the head. And then the next step after that will be to hold the sides of the head and tune into that energy. So this is one of the first steps in the meditation. But you got to know what the Seiheki relates to, the gallbladder meridian, and the color is purple. The next step in the meditation is getting into the center. And this is what these next couple of pages are going to be covering. Christ consciousness. Christ, Jesus, a very controversial figure. People have killed for religious beliefs before. So some of what I'm going to say here may kind of go against your belief system, may kind of push you and make you question things, and just be open-minded is all I'm going to say here. So who was Christ? I think a better question is, what is Christ? Christ is actually a consciousness that awakened on this planet. And what I mean is, through different stages of our evolving, the human race and the planet are evolving and growing. And as we reach certain points, there's like a consciousness that spreads throughout the planet. A lot of y'all have probably heard of the 100th monkey theory, where when this certain species of monkeys, enough of the monkeys learned to wash the sweet potato before eating it, not only did that isolated group of monkeys on an island know, but all the monkeys around the planet knew to wash their sweet potato before eating it. That is that morphogenic collective field around the whole entire planet. It ties us all together. There's one for every species, and the human has one too. So as a collective, as there's enough people becoming more and more conscious, then this new grid shows up. And the Christ consciousness grid showed up when we were at a certain point that we were able, at least individually, to hold and tap into that type of consciousness, that energy. And that happens whenever we reach a milestone in consciousness. And the growth happens on the planet, and sometimes even in our life, not sometimes, it does happen in our life, the big shifts are like quantum leaps. It's not like, you go from one type of species slowly evolving into another. There's like this jump. And sometimes there's a gap there, like, what happened between here and here? Well, there was this quantum leap where you can't exactly explain exactly the in-between change. It was just a drastic change. So this Christ consciousness showed up on the planet at this particular time, and it's there waiting for us to tap into. It's been just holding its place on the planet. It'll always be there from now on. And the thing about the conscious change is not everybody makes the leap at the same time. Not all of us make the leap together. So as we individually become more aware of our spiritual growth, we begin to tap into this Christ consciousness grid. And the energy matrix that supports this next leap is available now. It's been on the planet for quite some time now. The story of Christ represents this new consciousness grid coming to this planet, or basically awakening within us and on the planet. So Christ, like most, if not all spiritual icons, is the result of deifying the consciousness upgrade. So what I'm saying here is that they took and made a story and made a deity, Christ, Jesus Christ, to represent this consciousness shift, but it's basically a consciousness that came to the planet that we can all tap into. It's not an individual. It's not like Jesus alone could become Christ. It's the whole consciousness that we can tap into. And Christ even said, you can do greater things than me. If Christ represents a certain level of consciousness, take away the idea of the deity, because that's what messes us up. We put a deity between us and God. And we even do it sneaks in lots of little ways. We're supposed to be directly connected to God, or this consciousness creating field. Whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. Christ sometimes can be a block that we put in between us and God. So if Christ represents a level of consciousness, what can we glean from the following Bible verse? Jesus answered and said, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Well, that's been interpreted lots of different ways, but basically, like in prayer, you would pray to Jesus, and in Jesus' name, you ask certain things to God. That's one way of interpreting it. But how I interpret it is that it is by embodying those things that the Christ consciousness represents, or actually the deity Christ represented, that we can fully connect to God, the field, the Tao, the void. It's all the same thing. It's all surrounding us. We breathe it in. We're swimming in it. We're actually swimming, breathing, and living in God. And heal ourselves and others and much, much more. So the whole thing about going through Jesus to get to God is being in tune and turned on to the Christ consciousness level, which tunes us directly into God, directly, through direct communication, direct connection, not through something, not through a middleman or a middlewoman. So what did Christ represent? So if we want to know the consciousness we have to be in to tap into God, since Jesus represents tapping into God, because we got to go through Christ, we got to go through Jesus to get to God. What did Christ represent? Well, he represented many things for many different people, lots of different things. But for me, the most important is non-judgment, from which unconditional love springs. So to me, the Christ consciousness grid, how we tap into it, is to be in a non-judgmental, open, unconditionally loving place. And to me, that also translates into non-duality, or the term I like to use is non-polarization. In other words, there's not this separation between you and me, right and wrong. Christ was able to transform himself and those around him. The heart chakra is known as the great transformer. So I believe the heart chakra is the key to unlocking and tying into the Christ consciousness grid and then becoming more connected to God. So if the heart is known as the great transformer, what is a transformer? A transformer is an electrical device that transfers energy from one electrical circuit to another by magnetically coupling without using any moving parts. It is often used to convert between high and low voltage. So basically it means it's moving energy from one place to the other, and it's also transforming it. It can jump up energy and it can lower energy. So basically, if you are in complete alignment with your heart chakra and it is fully functional, you can change something, whether it's mental, emotional, energetic, and even physical. You can change it from one state or form to another state or form. So we're talking about changing illness into health, and changing survival into thriving. And this is one of my favorite quotes. Y'all have probably all heard this one before. This is Rumi. Out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. That field is God. Yin and yang, non-duality, non-polarization, unity. You and I for eternity. The yin and yang is associated with the heart chakra. And the heart chakra usually has a yin and a yang symbol there with a star tetrahedron or a Star of David, which I'll cover next. The yin and yang represents the eternal partners of creation, male and female, yin and yang, in perfect balance. The yin and yang is not just a two-dimensional object, though. It is a spherical in shape. So it's basically a ball, and these energies are swirling, swirling, swirling. And this will come into play in the meditation, so we went from holding the sphenoid, clearing out the temple with our going down the gallbladder meridian with the Seiheki, cleared out the temple. We've gone to our heart. We're tuning into our heart, tuning into being unconditionally loving and accepting, non-judgmental. And then we're going to be focusing then on the energy in the heart. And one way you can visualize it is a sphere, a yin and yang sphere that's spinning in all directions, just like I have this representation down here. I painted a little ball and then took pictures in different directions from different angles so you could see how the spinning might happen. So you can imagine there's like this spinning energy, yin and yang, within your heart. And basically what that is a generator. It generates energy. Negative and positive, spinning, 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 you get energy. Next is the Star of David, and this is a picture of the heart chakra. You can see the Star of David within that. And it's also a star tetrahedron, which is this little yellow picture here. It's a more 3D representation. We have, basically our body is a bunch of nested star tetrahedrons. We have one large one around our body, and it keeps shrinking smaller and smaller. There's not just one around us, it's inside of us and on lots of different levels. And here you can see the upper, and I go over this in some other videos, so I'm not going to go that in depth here, but all the upper chakras are feminine in nature. All the lower chakras are masculine in nature. And if you're looking at them, they're pointing. It's like a finger's reaching. So we have God the Father reaching down through the female energy, trying to touch Mother Earth, who is reaching through the physical. So there you already have a yin and a yang, and then they touch in the center. And when they fully overlap, when we fully got our chakra system balanced, they overlap in the center and create this little shape, the Star of David. And the Star of David represents the complete union, the complete meshing of your male and female aspects. And we all have male and female aspects. It's the positive and that we are building ourselves up to. So when you hit this point and you blend these, then you have done what you're here to do. You're supposed to marry your male and female energies completely. It's the marriage. And if you break down the word marriage, it's merry age. The happy days begin when we balance our lower and upper aspects, our male and female. So this pattern is associated with the heart chakra and repeats over and over and over. Not just in our body, but out into the planet is a star tetrahedron. Our galaxy could be a star tetrahedron, and on and on and on. Nassim is bringing in this information related to the black hole, is that within the star tetrahedron is the 64 tetrahedron. And the 64 tetrahedron, it just gets more and more in depth. I'm not going to get sidetracked there, but anyway, these shape repeats throughout existence. Regarding the heart chakra, it symbolizes the blending of yin female and yang masculine nature, the upper and lower chakras. Here are some of what I call reflectives of the collective, and it basically there's a collective consciousness, and this hidden information shows up in lots of different ways. So here we have the Star of David in the Jewish religion, the Merkaba, Drumvalo makes this pretty popular, and other people. It's supposed to be energy that surrounds the body. And here we have the Freemason symbol. The Freemason symbol may not look that much like, but if you draw a line and you connect the compass and the square, you add a line to each, you actually get another Star of David. And what's interesting is they got a G. So they got a little God spot in the center of their Star of David, And that's exactly how it works. When you tap into this point, you align your upper and lower chakras, you're in this unconditionally loving, non-dualistic place, you are in contact, direct contact with God. I'm going to cover the toroidal field a little bit. And I could say ET phone home because I play with words a lot, like I've already said. But toroidal could be toroDIAL, a round dial, just like the old rotary phones. Like when I was a kid, you go shh, shh. You know, nobody knows about rotary phones anymore. It's all push button. But this little dial here, this energy field that surrounds us, we tune into different realities all the time, from moment to moment, day to day, year to year, lifetime to lifetime. This is a toroidal field, and you can actually see in the center this little Holy Grail shape that shows up. That is the Holy Grail. It's already within us and around us. It's right there. So this is a toroidal field. It is shaped like a donut. This field is the form that all of creation is patterned after. And again, Nassim is bringing this out into the world more and more. And if you haven't seen any of his information, I recommend that you look him up. Here's his name right here. It's a little bit of a hard name to pronounce. Nassim, look up, one of his best videos was Black Hole, and the hole was W-H-O-L-E. New video, at least new to me, which really validated a lot what I was getting, so I really recommend it. This field is not only around our body, but around our entire galaxy. You can say that all of creation is nested toroidal field. So here is supposed to be our galaxy. See how the stars are coming out? That's how our galaxy spins around a center axis. Well, it throws this toroidal field around it. So this energy is swooshing, swooshing, and spinning out. Our energy body is the exact same way. So from the center, our heart, we're sending out these waves of energy, like a galaxy sending out information. And then we pull back into our being what results of what we're putting out. So just to break down a little bit of the concept of black hole, is a thing called the event horizon. And the event horizon is the edge, especially the top and the lower aspect of a black hole. It's the edge of where the black hole meets existence. And the event horizon is, in like sci-fi and other places, they talk about the gravity so dense that you can't escape it. So we are putting out information with our heart chakra, and then it's going out into all of existence and then coming back, and it comes back to our event horizon. And I think that little phrase is interesting because what we put out from our heart energy, what we put out from the center of our being, comes back as events on our horizon. We're creating exactly what we experience. And what we put out comes back. It comes back to us and is what we experience. It's what we're walking to, and it's the events on the horizon that are coming to us. But we're doing it. Pretty interesting. Not only individually, but collectively. So this toroidal field taps into a larger field. It's like woven into it. And this field is basically God. It's also called the Tao, the Absolute. There are millions of different names. 0 point field is another that people are starting to use. We are swimming in God. God is all around us. You could say that God is all the accumulated knowledge, infinite information in all of existence. And here's the thing about information. This is the yin and the yang aspect, the particle wave, because basically female God and masculine God are the exact same thing. There's just two aspects coming together. They're just two different aspects of the same thing. Just like we have a male and female aspect within us, our lower and upper chakras, that's male, female. And the information that we send out with our energy field, with our mind, comes back to us as the events on our horizon in form, in physical form. So we're sending a wave out, okay? That wave goes all the way out to the edges of existence and then comes back. Of course, we move more related to our particular field locally, closer to our reality, but it goes out to the entire existence, I believe. And then it comes back and becomes more solidified and comes back in form. So we're sending information out, which, just like sharing these words, doesn't appear to be in form, but it does create something physical. So the information I'm sharing with you, the words, have become physical, or at least 2D in the form of the video you're watching now. And the cool thing is we have complete access to all of this information. We have complete access to God. And if God is all information, is expanded consciousness as far as it can go, we all have access to that. We are only limited by our beliefs, our perceptions, and our expectations that we bought into in life. That's why to get beyond where we are, we have to go beyond the mind, because the mind is where the limits are. But our consciousness is the vehicle to do that. It gets to be a little bit of a paradigm, but it can be transcended. We are communicating and co-creating with God every second of the day. And that's true for all of us. People talk about synchronicity in their lives, like, oh, this was so synchronistic, typically when it's around something positive. But I'll tell you what, every aspect of your life is synchronistic. You may not be acknowledging it because deep in your mind, you're putting out this vibe, and then something comes back and you go like, how did I create that? Well, you're just not aware of the vibe you're putting out. But I can guarantee you, 100% of what you experience in your life is synchronistic with your thoughts, with your consciousness. And if you can really get a hold of that and understand that, you start to understand what needs to happen for change to happen. Unfortunately, the majority of us communicate and co-create unconsciously with God. The movie The Secret has brought more focus on this, but the thing about The Secret is it's lost momentum from the last I've seen of it. And I think why it's lost in momentum is because there's some key components missing. And I'll be covering some of that within this meditation, and maybe more even later. The key to spiritual growth and getting what you desire is, number one, you got to wake up to the fact that you are living and breathing in God. It's everywhere. You breathe it in. You're swimming in it. It's the invisible that we tend to say the physical is all there, but the invisible is just as impactful in our lives and just as important. Number two, you got to get past your current limitations. Those are perceptions, beliefs, and expectations, programming that you accepted in this life and past lives, everything. Number three, consciously merging with the field. The field is God, all that is. And again, bringing back in that quote from Rumi, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. So this speaks to what I'm talking about with getting into the Christ consciousness, going beyond the idea of right and wrong, getting into non-duality, total compassion, and where your heart chakra just expands and expands and expands and opens you up to have access to the field, the unlimited field, because we limit possibilities that come back to us on our event horizon by our perceptions. But if we can go beyond our current limitations and expectations, then what happens is we'll make a quantum leap into something new in our lives, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional. But we got to be tied in correctly. And this is a drawing I actually did a couple of years ago, but it has so much information in it. I just want to go over a little bit of it. Here you can see the body. You've got the chakra system. You can see the funnel at top. That funnel is like the halo. That halo is also the event horizon. It's where you suck in energy, which you're sending out all the time, and then it circulates back in. It's like a huge generator. You're generating your life, and you're coming back and experiencing it. It's like a wave that goes out and comes back in and then becomes solidified. So this event horizon is basically your whole outer field, but especially around the upper chakras related to this torsion field that I'll be going over next. Also within your energy field, you have the entire story of creation. You've got Mother Earth, Father Sky, yin and yang of one another. The nadiyas, which are the energy channels, relate to female, male, and that relates to Adam and Eve. The tree of life, which is this, not only the chakras, but you could lay the tree of life, the Kabbalah, over here. And the serpent is your Kundalini. So basically, the whole story of Adam and Eve and the snake were about awakening this dormant energy and going beyond our limitations to understanding ourselves completely. And that's the journey we're on. And I could talk way too much here, and I'll probably make this a little longer than I want to, but I want to at least put that in there. So, I want to get into this torsion field. Down the center of the toroidal field, remember that donut? Okay, remember that little cup shape, that hollow down the center? That is called a torsion field. This is where it really gets interesting. It is shaped, like I said, like a cup or a scroll, like a rolled up scroll, and I'll be covering that in a second. But see this column of light right here? This is actually like a picture inside a toroidal field. So you have this whole donut spinning, spinning, and then you have this field in the center. Here's a picture I put together, and you can see these little nested toroidal fields. They look like little bitty cups inside of cups, and then the chakra system. And then you have 3 layers, and then you get to the heart chakra. This torsion field we're going to be going over, and I'm going to teach you a new way to look at the chakra system that when you really get it, it'll blow your mind, because we've been looking at the chakra system completely wrong, at least from one perception. So, like I said, you can see the toroidal field here. You can also see like this cup shape, and that's like the Holy Grail. It's like a bunch of grails within each other. You could also say that's a scroll. So there's actually multiple layers of torsion fields that access and hold different states of consciousness. So these torsion fields not only are pulling in energy, but they're holding you dialed into a particular experience. And that all works together. So if you imagine that you're going down through the chakras, here's your crown, the third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus, and then your sacral, sexual, and then your root. Well, if you're blocked within here, you don't get the complete swirling, the powerful coming back of manifestation. You block it and limit it from coming and going in different ways. And we're going to get into that. And we can actually control the torsion fields by controlling our chakras, which are controlled by our endocrines, which are controlled by our emotions, and our emotions are also controlled by our consciousness. So the cool thing about that is with our consciousness, we can get a hold of our emotions. The emotions will stimulate the endocrines, or especially the pituitary gland. It's a long process, but the hypothalamus releases and tells the pituitary gland what to produce, and then that controls the chakras, which then in essence controls the torsion field. So we have complete control of being able to do that. It's through our consciousness focus that we allow the emotions, the hormones to be released, and are tuning into the torsion field. That's pretty awesome. We have it at our fingertips. It's in our body. Like I said before, most of this is already done unconsciously. However, we are waking up to the knowledge that is and will continue to give us more direct and conscious control. So like the Christ consciousness grid that hit the planet, that means we got to a certain point that we can handle that information. And now all this new information is coming in. The stuff I'm kind of tuning into with what I do, meditate and practice in my sessions and get new information, and what's coming in and through Nassim and lots of other ways. We're all tapping into a new field that's coming. And we're about to get another expansion. So you can see within my little diagram here that I put together, there's like layers. So it's a sphere within a sphere within a sphere within a sphere. And that basically goes back to the biblical verse about wheels within wheels. Well, this is typically how a temple is set up. In other words, a physical temple outside of the body is a representation of the most important temple, which is your energy body. You've got the court, and then you have you have an inner circle, and then you have the holy place, and then the Holy of Holies is within that. And then I found this picture online, which I thought was really interesting. This is a atom, and it's got 3 energy sphere levels to it, which I was like, wow, it's like an energy shell. It's kind of got the same makeup here. So we've got these 3 layers, these seals, if you were, to get into the Holy of Holies. And once you're in the Holy of Holies, the heart chakra, you tune in, open up, you are in direct communication with God. Another way to look at that is it's body, mind, and spirit, and within the spirit is the Holy Spirit. So let's get over the torsion field a little bit more, because this is what I really like. When the Bible is pretty interesting. If you look at it from a metaphysical way, it makes much more sense than trying to understand it from a purely historic event view. It's an entirely metaphysical book. Let's take a closer look at the torsion field and how it relates to the chakras. Here's a torsion field, and this, in somebody's hand, I'm not sure where I got that picture, it could be Jesus' hand, is what they call a Torah scroll. But that's interesting to me, is here's a torsion field, and here is a Torah scroll, a rolled up scroll. You can see how this energy is rolled up around the center. And here on this Torah scroll, you see the 7 seals. This is the 7 seals, the Torah, that Christ opens in Revelations. So going back to what I'm building up here is Christ is the only consciousness. taking away the being, talking about consciousness. Only Christ consciousness can open all the 7 seals, giving you complete access to this torsion field, which gives you complete access to God being present in you. That's powerful. I could speak all day on this, but I'm going to skip some of this so we can get to the meditation. I'm going to just give you a little quote here from the Bible. This is from Revelations. "And I perceived on the right hand of him who is seated on the throne a scroll, written in front and on back, and sealed up with 7 seals. And I perceived a strong messenger heralding with a loud voice, 'Who is worthy to open the scroll and to loose its seals?'" To make a long story short, the only person that can open that is Christ. And now that we know that Christ is really consciousness, this means that when we're holding Christ consciousness within our entire being, we can loose the seals, the limits on our chakras. And a master is one who has control over him or herself, their toroidal field, their torsion field, and chakras. These are another way of looking at the chakra system. Here you've got the spiraling light of Father. It's the wave out in space. And here's the torsion field. These chakras are right down the center here. And then you have Mother Earth. And like I said before, here are Father and Mother God trying to touch each other, and they do it through us. And the very center of all of this existence is, boom, right in the heart. The green chakra of opening the heart. Now, I'm going to show you a different way to look at this chakra system, which I said we've been looking at it incorrectly. Remember how I told you there was a torsion field down the center of your body? It's like the spinning energy rolled up and spiraled. Well, the chakras actually look slightly different. We're taught that the chakras are coming off of the body, like forward and backward. You know how the crown chakra is said to go towards the sky and the root chakra towards the ground? Actually, all the chakras do that. They're like nested within one another. Back to this picture here. One more. Back to this picture here. You see how there's a little field here, a field here, a field here. So actually the chakras are going lengthwise through the body, not backward and forward, like forward in the body and out. That's just a perception. And energy is interesting because it will adjust. A wave of energy will adjust to how you perceive it. So like in quantum physics, you know, when they're looking at something, it will change based on what the observer is looking at. So, but in essence, the chakras are much more in depth. So imagine looking down a torsion field, the top of it, and here you have the crown chakra. You go a little bit further in, you have the third eye. A little bit further in, you have the throat. And then you have the heart chakra. And I made a little, not really an animation, but I put these in a way that I'm going to show you and help you get a different perspective here. So here we're looking down the top of the torsion field. Somebody's looking down the top of your head. And I'll just start this and show you. So here's the crown chakra. And then you start to go further into the torsion field. Boom, you go into the third eye, the throat, the heart. And then from the other side, you have the solar plexus, second chakra, and root. So again, I'm going to play that one more time. Coming from the crown chakra, you're going down through the torsion field, and then you hit the third eye. Okay, a little bit further in. It's like a seal. Okay, it's sealing that chamber to get to the heart. You go a little bit further, you have the throat chakra, then the heart. And then imagine looking at it from the bottom. You're coming back out the torsion field. You get the heart, solar plexus, second chakra, and then the root chakra. That is the proper way to see the chakra system, as a torsion field. And there's seals that as you're going through this chamber, these seals prevent certain energies from getting through and out. And we're filtering all the time through these seals, which is pretty cool. So imagine that a toroidal field flowing through energy. If you've got a block in the field, the energy doesn't come back out properly. And now I came across this. This is the Stargate. I saw the movie. There's a TV show. I saw a couple of them. I never did get completely into the TV show. But the movie is enough. If you get the movie Stargate, it'll explain enough of what I'm about to go over, or give you a different perspective anyway. And you don't have to watch it, but I think it's pretty interesting. Is this torsion field, the Stargate, the movie, in a way, is actually reflecting that. And like I talked about the reflectives in the collective, no matter what you come across in reality, it's always going to have a certain amount of information hidden in it, because the collective is talking to us all. So if somebody's writing a book or doing a movie, whatever they're doing, there's always information from the collective put into anything that you watch. And the more aware you are of that, you get to see the hidden information. So the torsion field is at the center of your being, and its chakras are the keys to the universe, the universe. Always have been and always will be. I love how the holographic nature of our universe is always giving us clues. And like I said, this brings me to the movie Stargate. The key element can be found in the movie that the key element I'm going to be sharing with you can be found in the movie, but you don't have to see the movie. The Stargate, basically, for those of you that don't know, is a device that allows people access to other worlds. It creates a wormhole by dialing in the 7 chevrons. That was like super interesting. In later series in the TV, they made it 9 chevrons, but to me it's really interesting, the 7 chevrons. That's like 7 chakras. There's that reflective of the collective. So these are the little chevrons here on the edge of the circle. Once these are dialed into a certain way, it locks them in. This opens up, and they're able to get to another reality, another experience. As long as you have the codes to do the dials, to do the different chevrons, you can go anywhere that this gate is. And those chevrons are our chakras. And the codes are certain states of consciousness and certain hormones that are released from the certain states of consciousness. Consciousness creates the hormone, the endocrine release, and the chakra dialing in. So here's a couple of pictures I want to show you. Here on this picture on the right, it's when the Stargate opens like this. Whoosh, this funnel is created. This is a chevron along the side, so there's 7 of them. And here is what a wormhole that's created. Here's a better picture that gives you an idea. Here's a little ship coming out of a wormhole. It would come in here and then come out here. And in the movie, this could happen. The time that it would take to travel from here to here, if you did it linear, would take light years. But in this wormhole, it could take moments. So it's like going in this end here and then coming here, coming out. But isn't there something similar to this wormhole, to what I was talking about earlier at the center of our being? It's a torsion field. It's just longer and twisted in a certain way. But basically it's a torsion field. So a wormhole, a way to turn into another galaxy or another experience, is a torsion field. We have that on our body, which means ultimately if we had the right codes, the right information, and the right amount of consciousness and energy, we could basically do wormhole traveling. We have it within our body. Let's see. I want to go one more back here. To this, see this here. This is the torsion field, just so you get it. Here's a funnel. It goes through and it funnels out. That's around our body. Here it's just elongated and twisted, but it's the exact same thing. So a wormhole is a torsion field. And since there is no real there's a concept of time and space, but in actuality there is no real time and space, or at the very least they are relative to his experiencing or observing them, means that what's really needed to change a reality has so little to do with physical objects and everything to do with the movement of one's mind. So what I'm trying to say here is that since time and space are not necessarily real, they're just concepts that we're using to experience this life, that we don't have to take as much time to experience or get something as we think. It's a shift in our mind that happens. This dialing in that we can tune into new realities can be instantaneous. It can be like super quick. We can be there in no time, as opposed to long lifetimes of traveling and getting this lesson, that lesson, and coming out the other end. There's something more, and there's a way to speed up your growth and expansion and awareness. Now I'm going to bring you in another Reiki symbol, and I found this hidden code related to this Reiki symbol very similarly to the way I found the Seiheki. So the Seiheki is basically meant to balance all your chakras. It represents the coiled up snake, which represents Kundalini at the base of the spine. And it can be, you can use a chokure on each chakra. But there's a more elaborate way to use the chakra, and it's aligning all the chakras and bringing them in sync with one another. And if you look at the chakra, or the chokure, it fits perfectly over the chakra system. And the seiheki, the chokure, the proper way to draw it is 3 spirals, and then it ends at the center. It ends at the heart. And that's pretty powerful. So you're opening up all the chakras, balancing them with one another, and bringing it all back to the center. And when you're in your heart, free of judgment and duality, you can set a powerful, unobstructed intent, and you will see that happen much quicker. Because basically what happens is when our chakras aren't unified, we're sending out a vibe, but we're obstructing it at the same time. So what happens are those seals, our chakras, are basically limiting the amount of energy we're putting out into something and the amount of the physical experience we're getting back. Does that make sense? So if we can be completely align our chakras with a particular intent, then what we get is a much powerful, quicker return on what we're putting out. And this picture here, the meditation, I'm going to have another type of picture to show you this, but basically during the meditation you can use your physical hand, or you can just imagine it being drawn, but you would start at your at the right side of your head. If you're using your hand, the palm would be facing you. You sweep over, then you go down with your palm facing you, down through the crown chakra, and you're going to imagine drawing this through the center of the body, all the way through the center. So as you go down and hit the crown chakra, you imagine that seal's there, and the seal opens up, and you go down into the third eye, and again the seal is just like the crown. You go through that, open it up, down through the throat, down through the heart, down to the solar plexus, sacral, and then root. Just like that torsion field, that little animation I showed you. And then you spiral up, balancing the root to the crown, balancing the second chakra to the third eye, then balancing the solar plexus to the throat, and then balancing it all, bringing it all to the heart. Merging with the field of oneness, infinite information. And basically that's all of existence is. If existence is based in consciousness, which is what they're proving more and more, then basically it's in field of information. And information can be turned into physical form. So I'm sure you know where I'm going with all of this by now. By cleaning out the temple, your mind, that lines you up with the templates of reality. Is another use of the word temple, is a template. And number 2, centering within your heart by tuning into and transmitting Christ consciousness, non-duality, which opens up infinite possibilities. 3, aligning, dialing in your 7 chakras to where you want to go. 4, and sending out into the God field that desire. You can create anything, health, happiness, you name it. We have been creating this way all our lives. But once you're aware of how it works, you can consciously create. Not only this, but your seeking will be over, because you will be completely aware of your connection to God, all that is. You'll be aware of who you are. It is the concept of self-realization, complete enlightenment. It's what happens when you completely tune into this. You are it all of a sudden. I believe that conscious, compassionate creators are what we are all destined to become. The meditation I'm going to be sharing with you is a way of helping you to be more aware of the mechanics behind the workings of the universe and help you develop your skill and your self-mastery. So there's lots of ways you can do this, but the meditation I'm going to be showing you is a way that you can tune into it and play with it more yourself. And I'm going to do a couple of them. My first one is just going to be a basic one to tap into the field and be more connected to it. And then the second and third will be specific, trying to manifest things. And but the first one I recommend just because you want to play with being connected to the field and being aware of it. Because the more you're aware of it, the more you acknowledge it, the more that reciprocal interaction happens. Just like in a relationship, the more awareness you bring into it, the more you get out of it. And it is a co-creative process. It is a connection to something greater than ourselves. It's an expansion of ourselves. So now that you've seen this, probably have some questions. You can always email me or put a little quote down below or question something. I'm fine with that. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Other than that, my next thing is to make the video and post that. Namaste. Bless you all.